Hey, how's it going, everyone? Today I'm going to be going over some arena tips that hopefully will help you climb much higher in arena and win more battles, and hopefully you'll be able to get into the top 100 or even the top 10. So the first piece of advice that I can give is to really focus your farming on 5 units for your arena team and not spread out your farming too much, otherwise your arena team will not be as powerful as it could be. Right around when you unlock Arena at level 18, you should set your sights on a solid mid-game Arena team that you can start working towards, that then you'll be able to use to climb much higher in the ranks. As far as what that team should actually be, everyone's opinion varies. There are a lot of solid characters and a lot of solid teams to go for. I recommend just asking different people in the community and getting their thoughts, and then from there, forming a solid team that you think will do well. Now, personally, I have recommended using Lloyd, Kai, Zane, Hiker, and then Cactus Girl or Jester as the 5th. That team worked great for me. I was able to get into the top 10, even against other people that had been playing for over a month and a half more than me. I was still able to beat their teams and get into the top 10. But with that said, they have talked about that they are going to be reworking the Ninjago team in the future. I think it's almost guaranteed that Lloyd is going to get some kind of nerf, and then Zane and Kai and Nia might be getting reworks as well. Maybe those characters might even get better, but just keep that in mind if you are going to go for Lloyd. So you will unlock Arena at level 18, and your first team should probably be Hiker, Cactus Girl, Chicken Suit Guy, Princess Verda, and Headley. That's a solid first 5 to use until probably around when you're hitting like level 25 to 28. Right around there, you should start to transition into your next team, your mid-game team. But those 5 are really solid early on, especially Hiker and Cactus Girl. Those 2 are even viable, even well into the mid and late game. I still use Hiker in my team to this day. By the way, you should stop leveling up Chicken Suit Guy around the time you hit level 30, or even a little bit before that. Early on, he looks like a really powerful character. I think his second special does a lot of damage early on, and he's a great attacker for that early game, but as you progress further, his damage completely falls off and he becomes terrible. Continuing to increase his level and also equip more gear to him is definitely a noob trap, one that I personally fell into. So don't make that mistake. Currently, my Gear 6 Cactus Suit Guy hits for about 1600 on his special when he critically hits, whereas my Gear 6 Kai hits for about 7000 on his special when he critically hits. So it's a pretty massive difference, and even though Cactus Suit Guy does have an ultimate ability, that one only hits for like 900 on a critical hit. So it's really not that great at all, so please stop leveling up Chicken Suit Guy around level 30. The other 2 units I mentioned, Princess Verda and Headley, are not great characters by any means, but they are castle characters which are required for the scroll event and also Officer Primo. So if anything, I recommend taking them to 5 stars and then stopping there, because that is what is required to unlock Officer Primo. Before we talk about actual strategies within the battles, let's first go over how to climb the ranks most efficiently and get the best rewards every day. In this bottom right hand corner, you can click this refresh button and it will show you different opponents. You probably already knew that, but if you didn't, that will help you out a lot. Typically, I like to keep hitting refresh until I see a team that my team easily counters. For example, that Lloyd team I mentioned earlier works really well against King's Court teams and Pirate teams, so I can just keep refreshing until I see one of those 2, select that battle, and I can almost hit auto against those teams. And then I move up much quicker and it's more efficient and I don't lose as often. Now, one thing I really recommend is around when you hit level 30 to 35, basically when you kind of got a solid team going, set aside a chunk of time in your day just to do arena battles. You want to try to do 10 battles in one day and just climb up a ton of ranks. You get 5 battles every day and there's a 10-minute wait in between each battle, and after those 5 you can spend 50 gems to get 5 more battles. I recommend doing that, do 5 battles, then refresh and do 5 more in one day, kind of back to back to back to back to back over the course of 2 hours or however long it takes you, and you should be able to climb up a lot of ranks. The good thing is you really only get knocked back by other players only so many places every day, so if you're hovering in like the 800 range around payout, by the next time you go to do your climb, maybe you've been knocked down to like 1000, then you climb up to 800 for your payout and then get knocked down to 1000, and that keeps repeating. But if you set aside that chunk of time to do the 10 battles, you could maybe climb up to like rank 500, and then the next day maybe you're only knocked down to 700. And then if you keep doing that over, I don't know, maybe a few different times, maybe spread out over a couple weeks, you'll eventually be able to climb into the top 100 and eventually the top 50 and then the top 10. You'll be really surprised how high teams can hit up. Even if you see a team that has like 30 to 40,000 more awesomeness than you, you can still beat that team if you have the right strategies. For example, when my arena team was around 90,000 awesomeness, I beat a 140,000 power, full 7-star, full gear 6 King's Court team. And it honestly was a pretty easy battle, it wasn't too difficult. So like I said earlier, refresh until you see those teams that your team easily counters and does best against, and you'll be surprised how high you can climb up in arena if you actually put in the effort. So to put all of that a bit simpler, once you have a really solid arena team going, maybe you're around levels 35 to 40 or even a bit higher, set aside a period of time every so often where you're just going to do 10 battles in one day back to back to back by buying an arena refresh, and just try to climb up as many ranks as possible. And once you get into the top 100, it's going to be very difficult for other people to knock you out of that, and once you get into the top 50, it starts to become much easier. Okay, now let's go over some tips that you can actually use while in the battle. The first one here is pretty obvious, but you should not taunt early on in a battle. You should typically save your taunts for when another one of your heroes is reaching low health, and then you can taunt to protect them, and hopefully that will give your healer enough time to heal them back up. Or alternatively, you can use Jester as your tank, and then when he gets hit, he has a chance of healing the weakest ally, and that can actually be very effective. But yeah, if you just use your taunts too early on, it will actually help the AI target down on one unit, and they'll just be eliminated very, very quickly, since there aren't really any super high health or high defense tanks at the moment. So yeah, just save your taunts so that you're not helping the AI focus on one unit. Now, Lloyd, on the other hand, is a different kind of tank. Instead of him gaining taunt, all of his allies gain stealth and he gains dodge up. And you typically want to use that ability on him as much as possible, because since he has dodge up, most of the enemy's attacks are just going to be dodged by Lloyd anyway, and they won't be doing any damage, and even though they are able to focus on one unit, it's not really going to help them. Now, with that said, most of the time when I'm running Lloyd and Hiker together, I typically will do Lloyd's stealth ability on his second turn, followed up with Hiker's heal, and that allows the enemies to kind of spread out their first wave of attacks, and then Lloyd can stealth, and then Hiker can take everyone back up to full health, and it can give you a little bit of an edge in battle. One thing to keep in mind though is Lloyd is going to be getting some kind of nerf or rework pretty soon, so he might lose that dodge up and become slightly less effective, but I still think he's going to be a solid character for a while. So since Lloyd is so annoying to fight, at least right now, let's talk about a couple of different counters to him that can actually be really effective. The first one is just adding Dragon Master Barnabas to your team, and that's because of his second special. Right here you can see that even at level 1, it will dispel one buff, which you can use to dispel Lloyd's dodge up, and then you can actually hit Lloyd, eliminate him, and then move on to the rest of the team pretty quickly. For that reason, Barnabas is pretty solid on offense, but he's not great on defense because he does have a taunt ability, and when a character taunts, it will remove stealth from them, and that will actually help the person attacking you take out Barnabas very quickly, and then your team won't actually be able to use him anymore for that buff dispel, and his viability is basically wasted specifically for defense. Another decent way to counter Lloyd is by using Magisto in a castle team team. And the way that works is Magisto actually gives bonus speed to castle heroes, or maybe it's just King's Court, I don't remember. It's one of the two. But basically, because of that speed boost, a lot of your units will be able to go before Lloyd, and if you're able to do enough damage to him, he will actually do his self-heal ability instead of his stealth, and then that will probably give you enough time to take out like their hiker, for example, and then from there it can be a bit easier to take down the rest of the team. And if you are using a full King's Court team, you have Burnibus in there as well to do that buff dispel. Another option is to use a character that has disarmed on basic, like Nia or Redbeard. If you're choosing between the two, you should probably go for Redbeard. But if you're actually able to land a hit on Lloyd, you can stop him from using his stealth ability. It won't work for the first time because Lloyd is faster than Redbeard, but that could potentially stop Lloyd using the stealth ability a second time. So that battle might be a bit longer, but it could still help you win a bit quicker. So moving on to a different character now, let's real quickly talk about Jester. He is a really effective anti-AoE character because when enemies do an AoE ability, they're going to hit Jester, and then he has a chance to heal the weakest ally. And that can just lead to a lot of healing, and it will make your team very durable. This is especially powerful against an enemy Cactus Girl, because when she does her AoE ability, she applies damage over time for 3 turns, and every single time after that the Jester takes a turn, he will be damaged by that damage over time, and then he has a chance to heal one of his allies. So that too is going to lead to a lot of healing. That's why I think Jester is one of the best starter characters for new players, but also very accessible early on. By the way, another thing I recommend is to play on max speed so the battles don't time out, because sometimes even at 3x speed, the battles can get kind of close, and sometimes it will come down to the last minute, and sometimes if there's just 1 or 2 units left on the enemy team, it can actually be smart to just throw it on auto to make sure that your characters are getting their attacks off as quickly as possible, so that you don't hit that 0 mark on the arena timer, and then it would just be a draw, and it basically counts as a loss. So unless you're going up against a really easy team, you should almost always be using the 3x speed. Another tip I should mention is if you're ever curious what a buff or debuff does, you can press and hold on that character that has that status effect, and you can read exactly what it does. This screen also allows you to look at different characters' abilities, and you can read exactly what they do, which can be very, very useful to know in the middle of a battle, especially if you're going up against a character that you personally haven't unlocked, so you have no idea what the abilities are even going to do. And then the last tip I have today is don't necessarily use the same exact 5 characters to go up against every team. For example, you might want to just throw in Burnibus if you're going up against a Lloyd team. That's what I do sometimes, and it makes those battles very easy. But Burnibus would have almost no use at going up against like a King's Court or Pirates team, at least for the teams that I go up against. So just vary your team comp based off of the team you're fighting, and also pay attention to the teams in Arena. Pay attention to which ones are very difficult to beat, and try to take note of the more powerful characters, and maybe start farming towards those as well. But yeah, that's going to do it for this one. Hopefully some of these tips helped you, and thanks for watching.